are back. We have another wonderful guest. Please give it up for Mr. Clay Jacobs. So Clay is here to talk to us from the Alzheimer's Association. Clay says in his bio, we work on a national and local level to provide care and support for all those affected by Alzheimer's and other dementias. As the largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer research, the association is committed to advancing vital research towards methods of treatment, prevention, and ultimately a cure. The association is the leading voice for Alzheimer's disease advocacy, fighting for critical Alzheimer's research and care initiatives at the state and federal level. Through all of this, the focus is on activating communities to make a difference in a way that's meaningful to them. I am so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, although that sounds fancier and
Doesn't
like a
sound
much
good?
higher bar than
That's
maybe
what you
we'll be
said.
today.
That's what you told me.
Apparently.
I mean, it sounds amazing, and it's interesting. How it all came together. Shout out to your team who actually got you here and actually stalked me for
Yeah, that sounds
many
right.
months.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And actually, I got invited to lunch a couple of times, and I, much to my chagrin, did not show up. It wasn't in my defense. The meeting and what happened was, and all that. And one of your staff said, "So, girl, you don't even show us a free lunch?" And I was like, "Well, why you ain't say free in the beginning?"
See,
you know what I'm saying? So yeah. But I'm very thankful for them for following up and refollowing up and keeping to follow up. Shout out to you ladies. Thank you for everything y'all did to get him here. And I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
But let's talk to you. Tell us, I mean, I also tried, after I was stalked, I was like, well, maybe I should stalk them. You know what I'm saying? But you look kind of young. How'd you get into this line of work, and how long you been doing it?
I mean, I'm not quite sure still, but it's been 14 years I've been with the association and really started 14
years.
We won't ask people to guess my age.
Okay,
but
all right.
Yeah, we'll stay away from that. But so 14 years, there we go.
That's
I'll take
right.
22. But 14 years, but really started doing community health education, reaching out to folks, running walks, doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because 14 years ago, even as we talk about Alzheimer's disease today, was even less known then. Right? And I know even in the audience, we have some of our founding board members here today. But
Shout them out. Who are they?
Don Rico was one of the early board members of the Alzheimer's Association. But
He inboxed me and he said, "Oh, well, I used to serve on the board. I'll be there."
There you go. But so started in that work, and really because of family connection, and really over the past 2 decades, we've had multiple family members diagnosed, seen the trials they've had, and how do you go through that work. And even before that, professionally, I worked in hospital settings, and far too often people would come to us because things had gotten so bad they didn't know where to turn.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in an ER with your family at 3 a.m. and you don't know what to do. And so when it has a chance to come on and do something,
Yes.
that's where I started. And really since then, I've moved to then oversee all of our programs and then all of our state and federal policy. And for some reason, about 3 years ago, I was blessed to take on the executive director role.
That's
right
amazing.
right in the fall of kind of 2019. So within 3 months, not a whole
Oh,
lot
you mean
changed.
when the world
Yeah.
went upside down?
Yeah, just a few
Yeah.
things. Just a few
Just
things.
a couple things went
Couple
absolutely
things.
bonkers.
That's it.
Yeah. So that's amazing. What a legacy. 14 years of doing this kinds of work. And tell us more. A lot of people don't quite understand. I know I don't. I've been studying and trying to understand the differences between the different types of dementia. But how is Alzheimer's disease different from other kinds of dementia? And how is it more than just an aging disease? Because a lot of people think it just happens because you get old.
Absolutely, right? And age is the biggest risk factor. It's an important thing to talk about. The other is people wonder, is it just new, right? But you can look back to ancient Greek plays, and they're talking about demens, without mind. Dementia comes from that. And so we talk about it is all these different diseases and syndromes that say, okay, we're seeing personality changes and memory issues and all these things. Some are reversible, some are not. Alzheimer's disease just happens to be the most common, right? It's the one we know impacts the most people, but heart issues and Parkinson's and Lewy body, I mean, there are all sorts of things, and they all have a slightly different little flavor to them. But as you'd imagine, not a whole lot of research has been done for a long time around it, and then especially when we talk about the Black community or Hispanic community, I mean, people haven't been involved in research. So there's not only this misunderstanding of what it is, age is the biggest risk factor. We know now stuff we didn't know 20 years ago, that symptoms and the underlying disease starts 10 to 20 years before you see a symptom, right? So if you're in your 30s or 40s, right now, the disease is actually starting if you're going to get it.
Wow.
And so then it talks about it's not a disease of aging. It's how
That's
do we
right.
reduce our risk and take care of our health and do that across our life
Wow.
to have better outcomes. So
And that is
it's-
something that I was listening to an NPR spot maybe a week ago, like as we were trying to pull everything together, and I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? Where it talked about this man who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's in his early 50s.
Yeah.
And his wife was telling the story at this point and was saying, because the story was really on this new drug that could extend by 6 months. You can tell us a little about that. But basically, she said, now looking back, we noticed some signs much earlier that we just chalked it up to just, a lapse in memory at the moment instead of taking stock of what was happening at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a piece, right? Even folks with younger onset or early onset often are diagnosed because we don't think about it. Right now, in your 40s or 50s or 60s, we think of it as like our old auntie, right? And those pieces, even 20 years ago, right? It's senility, it's somebody who's just losing their marble, right? It wasn't this. And so when you talk about age, but think about that. I mean, those are folks with kids in college or just going out to the workforce and trying to figure out what to do. And it's a much different issue. And so all of the things on how do we support people, that becomes even more important.
And talk to us a little about disparity. I have family members who have developed Alzheimer's and different kinds of dementia. That we have a very long lifespan, especially among the women in our family. But a lot of the women have developed dementia, and I've been beating my own family, my immediate family, over the head, going, "You need to go to the doctor. You need to get this. You need to, tell them if there's a problem." But talk to us about those disparities. Even when Black and brown folks go to the doctor and raise an issue, they are less likely to be diagnosed. Talk some more about that.
Well, I mean, and if we have the next couple days, we can talk about all of it.
Right.
But I mean, that is the thing, right? We know, now we don't know why, all the things. We know there are healthcare issues and other pieces, but the ethnicity, greatest impact is Black Americans.
Wow.
Twice as likely as any other population to get this disease, and Black women in particular. And not only that, and the prevalence of the disease, but when you talk about all those things, does my physician listen to me? Do I get diagnosed earlier? Do I have access to healthcare? Do I have access to quality healthcare in my community? And then even as we talk about treatment and research and all of those things, we know that there's less faith that treatment will be available, and that research will include people of color. I mean, all of these things come into play, and it just means that ultimately, and even you talked about earlier, Black communities, Hispanic, Latino communities are more likely to think it's just a normal part of aging, right? And so we wait until things get acute and we do those pieces, we take care of our own. All of those things also mean that, though, as we talk about diagnosis and treatment, we're less likely to benefit from some of the things coming down the way. And so it's how do we talk about it? How do we talk about it? Because it's a disease that is the brain changing, but what we see is the people we care about changing, right? And it's hard to say, okay, I see a loved one, all these changes, and say, well, something's going on in the brain. It's easier with cancer or diabetes. I mean, we talk about heart disease in a much different way, all these other diseases, but I just see that you're not the person you were a year ago. A much different conversation, and even to talk about, even in my own family. I mean, I work for the Alzheimer's Association. We have family members, and I'm the grandson, right? So I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, of course.
Right? We just don't know. If auntie or somebody else is, I know what you're talking about. Don't worry about it. But it is those things, and so how do we navigate all of that and make a difference? Because we're on the precipice of some really exciting things that might change lives, and we want to make sure folks have access to that.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about being on the precipice. There was just announced, again, I'm always listening to NPR, y'all. It's like literally every day of my life, NPR. But they were just talking about on NPR, a new treatment that is supposed to help extend time for folks who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, it is exciting because this is it is a treatment that's going before the FDA. In the next 30 days, we'll actually know whether they approve it or not. So by January 6th, we'll know.
Wow, that's fast.
It's quick, like. Right? Yeah, I mean, and it's the second treatment that they're going to approval. Another one was approved, which isn't available, but it is also the first that's actually represents community.
Wow.
Right? So the first one had less than 1% of Black or Hispanic Latino participants. This is 30%.
Wow.
And so as this treatment goes towards, it's more representative of the U.S. We know it works in multiple communities and ethnicity and other health issues. And then really the big thing as we're seeing is that the results show it's almost a 30% delay in cognitive decline, and improved activities of daily living. So we are truly at this precipice of the first potential treatment ever for this disease that can make a difference in daily life for folks. And, you know, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you know, if we were to say this 10, 20 years ago, that would have felt like a moonshot. It's not
Absolutely.
a cure, but to be talking about treatment and adding quality life with those we care about, I mean, there isn't a single one of us who wouldn't take it. Yeah.
It's a huge deal. Oh my goodness. So you are right here in Harrisburg.
Yes.
Your office is here.
Yep.
And if folks want to get involved, I can't believe that. I'm still stuck on 30% improvement for quality of life is unimaginable. Okay, that's amazing. But if folks want to get in touch with you, if folks want to, you know, part of why I wanted you to come and why we've been working so hard to get into the community is because of these disparities. Not only are people less diagnosed, folks also, there are really barriers to access to information and access to care. So if folks want to get involved, have a family member that they want to, you know, get care, how can they do that? How can they reach out to you all? How can that happen?
Well, and once you do, there are so many ways to get involved, whether it's policy or community forums. You know, we talk about our work. It's no good if it's not with the communities we're trying to serve, part of what we should be doing, telling us what we should be doing. We have expertise on dementia. We don't know your community the way you do, right? Whether that's your neighborhood or your faith community or your city or professional organization. I mean, that's going to come from folks who work with us. And policy, research, care, and support are walked in also. I mean, whatever it is, it needs to have those voices in. And so on any social media channel, ALZ GPA, you can find us. Saying WW, like that's a thing anymore. So we definitely won't guess my age now, but that alz.org/GPA, but then also
alz.org/GPA.
GPA,
What does that stand for?
Greater Pennsylvania.
Greater Pennsylvania, okay.
And I would say the other big thing is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a 24/7 helpline available in 200 languages and dialects. So if you call in, there will be somebody who can speak to you.
Wow.
Whenever you need to, and in whatever way is most helpful for you.
That's amazing.
And we're incredibly proud. I even call it sometimes in the middle of the night. I wake up, just check in,
Like,
see how they're doing.
Y'all doing your job?
But 800-272-3900, anytime.
800-272-3900.
Yes,
okay,
that's it.
800-272-3900.
Anytime, anyway, we're there for you.
That's amazing. Wow, did y'all learn a lot?
Okay, we'll take that.
I am so thankful you're here. I'm so thankful that, you know, I feel like I can say this because it's the Black News Beat. I'm glad there's a person of color in our community that I know I would feel more comfortable reaching out to because I feel like you would understand.
Thank you.
So thank you for serving in our community. Thank you for being here on the show tonight. And I'm going to hit you up because I got some questions.
Deal.
Okay?
Deal. Thank you for having us.
Thank you
for
so
doing
much.
this.
Give it up for Mr. Jacobs, y'all.
Thank you all.